Electricity Minister Dr. Kgosientsho Ramokgopa says Eskom will soon carry out compulsory maintenance at some power stations, which will result in more load shedding. He says the utility needs to take advantage of improved generation capacity to ensure proper upkeep. Ramokgopa maintains that maintenance work is vital for the grid in the long term. Let's unpack this for you now. Bring in energy expert Mthunzi Luthuli, who joins us via our video link for more on this. Great to have you on the program, sir. Thanks for making time indeed for Newzroom Afrika. And that's always the decision that Eskom needs to kind of balance, right? So we have warmer days ahead. Typically, that should lead to a decrease in demand. But what do they do with that? Do they take the opportunity to reduce load shedding and therefore the economic fallout of the power cuts? Or do they take advantage of that by actually ramping up maintenance, which will keep load shedding? Where is that?
Good morning, and good morning to the viewers. Look, maintenance is important in the long term. In fact, both in the short term and in the long term. So, but of course, maintenance has to be balanced with the demand for electricity. You can't, for instance, in the extreme, do a lot of maintenance when people have no power. So it's always a balancing act. But certainly from a principal perspective, maintenance should and must be done.
Yeah. The question, I suppose, then is, do you take this opportunity to ramp that maintenance up? You know, are we at a stage where we're able to quantify what in the long term is better for this country? Withstanding the economic fallout of the ongoing load shedding, because he spent quite some time also honing in on that, you know, just how the costs are piling up, especially for small businesses, which are still closing down because of the power cuts. Or do we take this opportunity, as I mentioned, to ensure that fewer units in the long term are tripping because they're not where they should be?
Maybe what we need to do is, let's look at what the ideal situation is. The ideal situation would be, and this is how traditionally power systems were run. You would have sufficient generation capacity to meet your demand, okay? And then over and above that, you would have about 15% reserve capacity. That reserve capacity would be for unforeseen emergency situations, where, let's say, 1 or 2 units trip, and you've got that reserve generation capacity to come on board. That is the ideal situation. Now, if you do not have sufficient generation capacity to meet demand, and you still need to do maintenance, ideally what you need to do is maintain those units that really have to be maintained, which means that your power generation capacity will be less than demand. But what you then need to do is to minimize the difference, minimize the shortfall, so that the impact on businesses and the economy, as you say, is not substantial. So those should be the guiding principles.
Sure. You know, part of what some other analysts have warned about here is that because many businesses cannot fully rely on Eskom, understandably, they have found alternative ways of generating capacity. But the unintended consequence of that is that Eskom, in the long run, if this trend does continue, may find itself actually receiving less revenue from those customers who typically would be the rate-paying customers. How worried should Eskom be about that particular trend, which I understand affects mostly those who are able to install solar, which becomes very beneficial in summer?
Yes, this is a big problem. The country is basically caught between a rock and a hard stone. What do? If you're a business and you are not getting the power that you need from Eskom, and you do have the option of generating your own power, you would obviously generate your own. Okay? But on the other hand, as you say, then Eskom loses revenue, which means that Eskom then can't continue operating as normal. And the people, unfortunately, that get affected by this are people who cannot really generate their own electricity and have to rely on Eskom. And usually, most of those people will be the ordinary poor people and small businesses. This is the unfortunate unintended consequence of this new policy, yes.
That said, the minister really painted the picture of brighter days ahead, excuse the pun. You know, a big sort of golden thread over his hour-long briefing yesterday was around how things on the grid's performance front look better than anticipated. He's almost stopped short of saying we'll have a much easier summer than perhaps initially predicted. Are you as confident?
Look, I am confident that things will improve. I think that government, Eskom, and everybody in the country has realized the importance of taking the issue of running Eskom seriously and the issue of maintaining the generation units at Eskom seriously. And I get the sense that they've started doing that. So that gives me confidence. Now, will the situation be perfect? Certainly not in the short to medium term. But I think if we work at it and we do build new generation capacity in the long term, South Africa should come out of this problem.
Absolutely. Well, we'll see how all of that unfolds. For now, thanks very much for your time. Energy expert Mthunzi Luthuli speaking to us there about what we've seen unfolding in the weeks gone by and possibly what the weeks ahead look like. Once again, Mthunzi, thanks very much indeed for speaking to us.